Tonight at case for our board meeting. Call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Michelle, any agenda changes tonight?
There are no agenda changes.
Okay. Anyone here wishing to address the board for agenda related public comment rather? No? Okay. Michelle, any communications tonight?
And no communications.
Very good. Then it is my privilege to turn it over to our principal here at Case, Catherine Cook, for welcome and student voice.
All right, hello. We'll get started. We're really excited to present to everyone some of the exciting things we have going on at Case Middle School. Starting with something that the board you all approved last year for us to add a sixth team, which was really instrumental in getting our AIS services able to meet students' needs. So I'll talk a bit more about that in a minute, but we have welcomed to Case Melanie Berry, our assistant principal. She's going to present to you in a minute. Ashley Buckley, school psychologist. Caleb Ciani is our new AP teacher. Erica Derwin, our SSO. Leila Dunbar is our new Spanish teacher who took over when Jerry Gozier became our instructional coach. Kayla Filiatro is a new science teacher. Alex Fives is social studies. Lauren Hardwick is math. Lindsay Ryan took over our 12.31 special ed program. Nelson Spratt is science. And Katie Taylor is here tonight. You'll be hearing from her too. She's our newest music teacher. So we're excited to have a lot of new staff in the building, and that new staff has allowed us to pretty much triple the amount of AIS services that we're offering during the school day for students in both reading and math. So that's been really exciting, as well as adding some additional AIS classes to address students who need help in science as well as social studies. So a couple other exciting things we have going on. Listed on the board are all of our extracurricular clubs and activities. Some of the ones that I have up there in bold are new clubs. So we actually added bowling club last year, and bowling club was in its second year this year. Separate from bowling club is the actual varsity sport of bowling, which was added this year. Both run by our school counselor at Case, Kevin Durr. And Kevin Durr has also volunteered to run our esports club. So we have some pictures I'll show you to feature both of those. And Katie Taylor has started a new drama club at Case. I want to mention that Katie was recently the guest conductor for middle school chorus at Bi-County last weekend, Saturday the 5th. So we're lucky to have Katie here and some of the initiatives that she's doing, including drama clubs. I'm going to hand it over to her and her students to describe what they've been up to with drama club.
Hi, my name is Madison Kane, and I'm the president of Case Middle Drama Club, Acting Out. Our mission is to help students be successful by developing essential life skills like communication, critical thinking, creativity, self-confidence, and teamwork, all through the process of rehearsing, performing, and collaborating using theater techniques. Some of those include improvisation, monologues, duet scenes, and plays. We are about to cast our screenplay, Everything You Always Wanted to Know About Your Teacher, but Were Too Afraid to Ask, which will be performed on Friday, June 6th. This club really helps students feel belonging at Case Middle School, and I know that's something our school district strives for. I am proud to say I am part of this wonderful club, and I also know that me and my fellow club members can't wait to know more and more about being an SPM.
So a couple of the kiddos couldn't make it tonight, so I'm going to read for them. Charlotte Stadler is our vice president of the drama club. Another one of our core values and goals is to build camaraderie between students and to establish a feeling of trust, support, and encouragement for all. This will build self-confidence and self-worth. Many students find it hard to find a place where they can belong, and it is the goal of our club to be welcoming and supportive of all students and not only be accepting, but celebrating the differences and unique personalities. We've had a lot of laughs. Really.
Hi, I am Bruno Suzette, and I am the secretary of the drama club. Now, not only do we work hard to build skills and create a family in our meetings, we are also working toward preparation of our show. Another goal of ours is to prepare performances for our community. And while doing so, we are building skills in acting through facial expressions, body language, gestures, posture, tone, volume, and tempo. We are learning a lot about how to be expressive and speak in front of people, a skill certainly useful for our future in college and in the workforce. I especially love the improv games and activities because it teaches us to think on our feet and be more confident in front of our peers.
I'm Raylan, and I'm part of drama club. As a member of the drama club, I've always struggled with talking in front of a bunch of people and sharing my thoughts, but joining this group has improved that and has helped with my socialing and stuff with other people and my friends, and especially with talking to other people at the school and others, and thinking of on the spot things. And the game Freeze is a really amazing thing that I got to try with my friends, and it helps think really fast, and they can help with what stuck in your brain and to get it out immediately. And it really helps with social skills and getting to know your friends, and the ability to communicate with one another if you're shy.
Last but not least, I just wanted to say that we did not have any funds as it's a new club, so we want to say thank you to SAD and to Student Council, who combined donated $400 to our club. So we were able to purchase the licensing for our play. So we have $24.95 left in our account. But we're hoping to have a nice donation jar at our play and get the kids in our little auditorium here at Case. We're just going to do kind of black box style, do a show, get them used to performing, and they're going to do all of the things. Do the posters. They're going to do the backstage work, the props, the costuming, all the things. I'm going to do as much student-led stuff as we can to really get them being creative. So we hope to see a lot of people at our play and supporting the kids in this new venture. We have on the books, we have 63 kids in my Google Classroom, and we have probably between 25 and 35 that are there weekly, and a lot of them just started their spring sports, so they're balancing that time and trying to figure out how they can do both. But the kids come out and we have a lot of fun, we laugh a lot, and you can see just their confidence growing and their relationships with one another growing, and lots more smiles and confident kids in the room, which is really the goal. And I also am hoping to help enhance. A lot of these kids are at Berlin and Maddie, who are both in the musical, so I'm hoping to help them build their skills in their acting to help reinforce our musical programs as well. So thank you so much, and we appreciate you guys supporting our club.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Taylor, and thank you, girls, for speaking a little bit about the drama club. I like what you said, Madison, about finding some place where you can belong, and that's really what we strive for all of our students, to have somewhere where they feel they fit in. And that I guess is the perfect sentiment to share with what Kevin Durr is doing for both Bowling Club and Esports Club. So giving kids more opportunities for extracurricular activities especially something like esports that maybe we have kids that aren't necessarily interested in athletics, but they're very talented in video gaming, and they can be really competitive that way with esports in the region. All right, we also wanted to highlight a recent achievement of a staff member of ours. Carissa Dickinson was recently awarded by NBC Watertown in partnership with the Northern New York Community Foundation, the Classroom Kindness Teacher Appreciation Award. So. And Carissa contributes to a lot of our programs at CASE, including PBIS, both Tier 1 and Tier 2. She is our lead teacher for math, and she also started a new initiative this year, running monthly mentor-mentee meetings for our new teachers, where they get together and they have an agenda to discuss topics of relevance each month with guest speakers like Mr. Kevin Todd or myself, with different topics. So she's really single-handedly kind of put together a program to further support our new staff members and hopefully encouraging some longevity and reducing the turnover that we sometimes see when new staff come and go. So really making everyone feel supported. So she's not just kind as a teacher in her classroom to students, she's kind and supportive to her colleagues as well. All right, some of our successes this year I mentioned before. With our new team of teachers, we were able to triple the amount of AIS services in our building. So whether that was students getting extra academic support in math, reading, science, or social studies, that is a huge step in the right direction in supporting our students academically. We also have made some really great gains in supporting our 12-1 program at CASE. Matt Burdick has been instrumental in partnering with us and really making sure that that program is supported, not only with the teacher in the classroom, but having a TA in that room, sort of piloting that at CASE for other 12-131 programs in the district. That's been excellent to have a TA in the room. And then we have 5 or 6 aides that work in that room too. So we've really been focused on providing some job embedded PD for all staff that work in that classroom. They handle some of our students with the most needs. So we've really put a lot of efforts into making sure that the staff working in that program feel supported. One of the specific things we've done for the students, not only in that room, but potentially for the whole building, we were able to revamp our sensory room. So our 12-131 program is housed in a classroom that has an additional classroom attached to it. So what you see pictured on the board is our room 102 that we've always kind of called it the sensory room, but it wasn't stocked with many items. So Julie Elliott, one of our occupational therapists in the district, was aware that we had some extra equipment sitting in storage at Massey. And through, some work orders and the help of Del and Adam and Jerry and Mike, our custodians in the building, with some help from the athletic custodians, they were able to install all of these items and really set up the room to give a true sensory experience for the students that need that kind of break in their day. So that really just got all put together within the last couple weeks. So it's a really exciting space to utilize for students that need that kind of a break in their day. All right, I'm going to hand it over to Mrs. Melanie Berry.
How is everyone today? So we have had a significant decrease each month. After October, that was up a little from November on, in our discipline And a lot of that, I say, comes from the team that we have. So we have our SSO, Erica Derwin, also just our social worker, Amy Adams, and our guidance counselors, Carla Van Wormer and Kevin Durr. We all really work as a team in enhancing the behavioral supports for students. So finding individual needs. This past year, I've just been getting to know everyone, the students, the teachers, the families, and I think that that has made a large impact. Our town hall meetings, we use to not only share data, but also our expectations with the students. We review things that are pertinent. We enhance their behavioral supports and just also increase meaningful student engagement. We've seen such a difference in them in these past few town halls and their behavior and just how attentive they've been. So while we're at our town hall meetings, we focus on the ABCs, your attendance, behavior, completing your schoolwork. We talk about our goals. We talk about PBIS ties into this, right? We had a whole attendance challenge. And then we had, let's try to get our referrals down, and we make it competitive and just always focusing on, how can you make sure that you are finishing strong at the end of a quarter, highlighting the student of the month and other awards and just celebrating their successes. So we also, in our town halls, we highlight honor roll A and B, the student of the month. We also highlight topics. This past month, Officer Derwin came in and helped discuss acceptable use policy, light speed, the proper way to fill out a tip line and why not to fill out a tip line was a topic that we had. Reinforcing our behavior expectations, and basically anything that is on the forefront, we take that as a teachable moment for all of them. Our PBIS Tier 1 and Tier 2 has been pivotal also in student behavior and discipline. So we have Gigi Nirvin and Megan Suddeth as our Tier 1 leaders this year. The think sheets continue to, I think, help bring the amount of office referrals down by giving them the chance to reflect on what they have been working on. It gives them a chance to think about what they could do differently before it becomes an office referral. We monitor minor behaviors and see where we have patterns. The student reflection piece is also an important part of how, they think about, why have I been doing this? Our attendance challenges, like I talked about, have been a huge success. They've had mystery boxes that our staff puts together, and then they use their PBIS points for, sorry, that's a different challenge. Yes, the case cash. And then just our restorative practices, things like buyouts at recess. They can use their case cash to maybe go and play dodgeball or go and play board games. Just all of the extra things we can think of, which in turn also decreases our cafeteria behaviors. In the Tier 2, we have Robin DeFranco and Carissa Dickinson. We have been utilizing the check-in, check-out. So there are students that are assigned mainly through our PPT referral process, and they check in with a certain teacher at the beginning and end of a day. And it just also gives them that extra connection with an adult. Our SAGE groups focus on specific things like maybe social emotional, I'm having a mind. Social emotional awareness, things like interactions, behavioral expectations. Kevin Durr does our cafeteria connections. Sometimes we have to have reteachings if there have been multiple think sheets in the cafeteria or multiple referrals. And then our after school detention is more than just a holding place. We have Audra Schwellness, works on reteaching expectations with students so that there is a very intentional reteaching to avoid future referrals for the same incident. So our discipline data, like I said, October was a rough month, but since then, we've seen a decrease every single month, which we are pretty proud of. And also our attendance. By really checking in with students and figuring out what their barriers were for attendance, including tardies, we were able to promote regular school attendance. Some kids might have just needed an alarm clock or an umbrella or just more check-ins. Whatever the case may be, making those connections again with parents, with students, letting them know that we were, keeping track and that we want them there. We had some kids that might have, started coming in earlier and earlier until eventually they were coming on time. So just consistency is what's got us up to 90.36. So we're pretty proud of that also. I'll turn this back over to Katie.
All right, so some of our areas of focus for the future, in kind of just capitalizing off the fact that we have increased our academic supports for students. We're looking to do more instructionally in terms of our offerings, what's in our course catalog for 7th and 8th graders. One of the things that we've been talking a lot about is how we can offer more high school credit bearing classes to our 8th grade students. So whether that's in a course like Studio Art 1 or potentially offering more sections of Algebra 1. Our tech teachers are interested in offering design, drawing, and production, often referred to as DDP. That's a high school class that our 8th graders would be capable of taking and earning that high school credit. So just some of the things that we're looking to possibly incorporate as soon as this coming fall. And then one of the other major initiatives that we're in talks about is, of course, Cyclone Academy Junior, and looking at a couple of different models we could offer for that. So one of those models being kind of a copycat of what's currently happening in Cyclone Academy at the high school, and copying that model to offer to our 8th graders in a program that would be roughly from 2:30 to 5:30 each evening. But we've also talked about something we could offer after school that we're referring to as Cyclone Academy Junior High, where they could earn high school credits. So this would be more geared towards a student that is happy to attend our typical 8th grade school day and maybe is looking forward to staying for an extra hour after school to gain some high school credits to give them a little bit of a leg up in entering 9th grade. That may be a class that they can't fit in their daily schedule for whatever reason. We're looking at offering some options after the school day from 2:30 to 3:30. In addition to a full program like Cyclone Academy Middle School that would be more similar to Cyclone Academy that's currently at the high school. So looking towards creating some of those programs, especially in focusing on some of our students who might currently be homeschooled for whatever reason, seeing if we can attract some of those students back to be here with us. Some students, especially that struggle with anxiety, might be a good candidate for a program that takes place after school in a smaller setting. So we're busy working on getting those programs kind of designed and staffed. And Matt Burdick's also been a great help with all of that. I had mentioned, and Melanie talked at length about how our referrals are down. Specifically, our referrals for students with disabilities are also down. So that is something that we're proud of. And thinking about our PBIS program, our Tier 1 and Tier 2 programs are strong. And we've discussed the possibility of creating a Tier 3 for PBIS. for students that continue to struggle and looking at interventions to help them. So I think that is all that we had for you this evening, and I'm happy to take any questions if anybody has questions.
Anyone?
I'm also happy to not take questions.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Well, thanks for having us. It was great to.
Our student voice participators, could you just stand up and say your name, because we have certificates for you. Start, yes. What's your name?
Madison Kane.
Madison Kane, okay.
No, Charlotte wasn't here. Braylon, I didn't tell me she was coming. I'm glad she came, but then we have Berlin and Sue, that's the other one.
Okay. And we will print a certificate for you and make sure that you get it, okay? Okay. Okay. Moving along on board and staff reports, turn it over to Michael Morgan, our athletic director for athlete recognition.
Good evening. I want to take a moment tonight to spotlight a group of exceptional student athletes who recently had the opportunity to represent Watertown at an athletic leadership conference held on March 6th at the Clark Sports Center in Cooperstown. The theme of this year's conference was "Respect, It Goes Both Ways," a message that aligns perfectly with our athletic department values of integrity, character, and leadership on and off the field. 4 of our juniors, Mara Dickinson, Molly Maurer, Jack Converse, and Maddox Corey, were nominated by their coaches and selected to attend based on their emerging leadership, positive attitudes, and the influence they have within their teams. Throughout the day, they participated in meaningful sessions focused on topics like respect in athletics, the importance of nutrition and fitness, understanding the role of officials, and navigating current challenges facing student athletes today. Alongside them, our coach representative Robin Boomhauer and I were also fortunate to take part in leadership programming, including sessions at the National Baseball Hall of Fame. We came together for 2 powerful keynote presentations, one from Aaron Hart of Varsity Brands, who spoke about using influence to lead with purpose, and the other from Chris Herron, former NBA player and founder of the Herron Project. His message on making good choices and personal growth resonated with all of us. These experiences weren't just inspiring, they were transformational. Our goal is to equip these young leaders not only with tools they can bring back to their own teams, but also to help create a culture of mentorship across our athletic programs. Leadership is not a title, it's a responsibility. And these 4 students are stepping into that responsibility with maturity and vision. I also want to give special recognition to Maddox Corey, who was selected by Section 3 to represent our region at the New York State Student Leadership Conference in Albany on April 3rd. Out of 104 member schools in Section 3, Maddox was one of just 18 student athletes chosen. He spent the night collaborating with student leaders from across the state on building the champion within and participated in workshops focused on student athlete mental health. This is a tremendous honor, and we are very proud of Maddox for the way he represented both Watertown and our section. Lastly, I want to highlight an outstanding accomplishment from one of our youngest Cyclones, Carson Brown, 9th grader, was recently recognized by the Watertown Wrestling Officials Association for being the 2025 Frontier League Wrestling Tournament Champion at the 108-pound weight class. Carson's dedication and competitive spirit have laid the foundation for what promises to be a remarkable career in our wrestling program. Mom, you can have that. There you go. These students are shining examples of the excellence we strive for in our athletic department, not just in competition, but in character, leadership, and growth. And thank you all for continuing to support opportunities that empower our students to lead, represent, and inspire. Thank you very much.
Okay, any of our athletes who were named tonight, could you come up? Just come right up to the microphone and say your name.
Carson Brown.
Mara Dickinson.
Alex Corey.
Holly Mauer.
Okay. Up next on board and staff reports, Mrs. Lori Conders with the policy committee meeting report.
Definitely not as exciting as that. We had to review some policies that we've kind of ignored. With other things going on. So the first one is policy 7502. We just needed to review the changes. There basically was only verbiage changes, so we were gonna put that up for you guys on May 6th. It was literally just changing words. That's it. No policy changes at all. Policy 7501.1, same thing. Policy, no change. There was a spelling verbiage. That was it on that as well. And 7501, which is, by the way, 7501 is student privacy. 7501 is verbiage as well. That's for parental access to instructional materials. On part C, we have to add on Michelle's information under district clerk. And then there is just some verbiage regarding changing he, she to they, his, her to their. And then there was just verbiage on that. So we're going to bring that forward to you on May 6th as well, since they're all just verbiage. Is everybody okay with that? All right. And then 7300 is co-curricular and extracurricular programs. The only change on that was item number 7, and it was just a change regarding the Crown Act. So we had to change the verbiage to match the Crown Act, and that was something that we had to add. You guys want to read that first or put it up May 6th?
I'm all right with
And that was all we had for today.
that. Thank you very much. I did forget anyone who was here for student voice or the case presentation. You are dismissed. You don't have to hang out for the whole.
Really know how to clear a room.
Okay, up next on board and staff reports tonight, Superintendent of Schools report, Dr. Larry Schmigel.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. The first thing I'd like to do is recognize 2 weekends ago, and you heard Katie Cook recognize this earlier, one of our very own. Katie Taylor was one of the directors in this. But our students that participated in the Bi-County Festival at the high school, that was absolutely amazing 2 Saturdays ago. Last week, the high school had 2 amazing concerts that I was able to witness. That was great. Last Friday, there was a lot more talent than I have at the talent show Friday night. Thank you. One person breathe it loud.
I'm really learning your humor.
It's dry. The next thing I'd like to mention is this year I had the opportunity to bring a team of people and a board member, Lori went with us, to the 34th Annual National Dropout Prevention Conference in Louisiana. We did such a great job as participants that they are inviting us back to the 35th Annual National Dropout Prevention Conference, and they are asking us to please speak on behalf of Cyclone Academy and all the work that other districts can emulate to improve their graduation rates and to work with students in need. The next thing I would like to mention is Carissa Dickinson. I know you're recognized already, but just another round of applause for receiving that amazing recognition. amazing to have Watertown teachers and staff recognized for the amazing things that are going on in our district. The next thing, I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to anyways. I'm going to read an email that I sent to our new teacher leads. Each year we look at retirees that are resigning due to retirement, and we look to fill those teacher lead positions in collaboration with the teachers union. So we have 4 amazing teachers that have contributed greatly to our district, and I'm thrilled to share in this excitement of their upcoming appointments will be taking place today as a board action. Departments that are impacted by these are science, music, social studies, and special education. These appointments are effective July 1 and are a reflection of the hard work, dedication, and passion that each of our teacher leaders bring to our district every single day. Jennifer, your leadership in science, and Lori, your work in music, have not only shaped the minds of our students, but also created a foundation for both departments. Kyle, your expertise in social studies, and Bridget, your commitment to special education will be key in enhancing and growing those vital areas in our district. I am confident that with your guidance, all 4 departments will continue to evolve and thrive. Your contributions are immeasurable, and I can only envision the incredible strides you will make as you step into these roles. Our district's motto is "Our children are our future." It truly embodies the work that all of you are set to do. When our district thrives, our community thrives, and through your leadership, you will undoubtedly affect positive change that impacts not only our students, but your colleagues and our broader community. You now hold the key to further shaping the success of our district, and I look forward to seeing all of you lead your departments with the same excellence that you always demonstrate. And 2 of them, I believe, are here tonight. So Bridget, if you can stand up. Okay, I was beginning to think our music department was defiant. Today we had actually I want to mention one more thing because Dr. Gearhartz is here. If I don't, there is a wonderful opportunity. Is she back there? Is she listening?
Yep.
Okay. Tomorrow evening at 5 to 6:30 p.m. we have an event going on at Watertown High School to help educate our community and our parents on credit accrual and credit recovery. I want to thank Dr. Gearhartz and her team for the amazing support and sponsorship. There will be food, there will be transportation, and any parents that are interested in learning more to help their child pass the graduation threshold is invited to attend tomorrow evening. The next thing that I want to mention, this has been a conversation with the board a few months ago, so I just want to bring it back to highlight. We had the opportunity, today was the first day of our Director of Facilities, Tim, and we also had a coordinated meeting with NYSERDA. And so we are looking at different options that we can apply for as a district to help with energy savings. And so we had that joint meeting today. We also had another meeting today with Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Services. Pella Osborne, as I said in the last board meeting, we obtained the services of Labella Associates, which is who the city is using regarding 404 mitigation. Those applications for those grant monies are due at the end of this month. And so on April 30th, we will be applying for that. Our hope is to use some of the grant money. There's 2 phases of grants. The first grant that you apply for helps with the planning phase. And so some of the testing phase, a part of the planning phase, we've already paid for as a district. And so we're looking at applying for that grant to be reimbursed for those. In addition, there will be additional testing that's needed, and that will also pay for the design piece, all of which are extremely helpful because we still don't have an idea yet on the FEMA output as far as the payment. And this will also offset some costs for our capital projects for much needed site work on this campus. And that concludes my comments for this evening.
Thank you so much. Okay, last board and staff report tonight is Brianne Durham, our Assistant Superintendent for Operations and Finance, with the board proposed budget presentation.
Did you want the clicker, Dr. S? Or we don't have it?
Yeah, I'll sort of-
All right, good evening. The the proposal for the budget adoption tonight. This is a culmination of several months worth of work with the administration. We're going to start off by introducing the Board of Education. President Jason Harrington, Vice President Randy Richardson. Our other board members, Lori Converse, Tina Fluno, and John Kane. But 2 seats that are up this year is Polly Gozier and Millie Smith.
So the important thing, we had the opportunity to meet with our staff today regarding the budget, and it's important to understand that when you put a budget together, it should be tied to something that should be tied to our strategic plan. And so when you look at our strategic plan, the primary goal is to increase graduation rates. So what we hope to do throughout this budget presentation is to defend how this budget will help us with the graduation rate. We know that in order to improve the graduation rate, we first must meaningfully engage students in lessons that apply to them both now as they're in our K-12 continuum, but also in the world beyond. In order to do that, we need to make sure that students are here. So improving student attendance is critically important, and enhancing behavioral supports for our students that maybe require some tier 3 supports, some of which you heard Katie talk about in her presentation. And then a huge round of applause to our school board and to everyone listening in and those physically present today. Our capital project that passed at $110 million is the largest capital project that this district has passed. And it would not have happened without the community support. And it's going to be nice to have new windows, new doors, new roofs, security structures, and heating units so that we can focus on making sure that students are able to learn and to grow, and more future capital projects will be following. The next slide, please.
Throughout the budget, we try, as we're building the expenses, we always have to look at the revenue side. How are we going to balance the budget? And one of the ways is increasing revenue, and increasing revenue is very difficult to do. Revenue is not, it's not there forever. There's limitations. You know, state revenue is going to be very limited in the coming future. Other revenue is can be grant money, but also that's very limited as well to their timeline. The second option is use of reserves and fund balance. However, if you continue using your fund balance and reserves, also known as your savings account, to balance the budget, eventually those funds will be gone. The third option is the tax levy. The tax levy, also known as the 2% cap, is at 2.44% this year, which is just shy of $427,000. And this is one of the ways that schools typically use to balance their budget. However, they are limited to the tax cap calculation.
Just as a highlight rate, last year was 2.77, just about 489, and we went out at 0%.
Yes. And the last option, which is the option that is typically done, is reducing expenditures. Some districts that are facing some hardships will cut programs and cut staffing. Fortunately, Watertown City School District is not in that position. It is not what we are doing. We are actually growing. This next slide is a copy of the tax cap calculation that you've seen a few times throughout this budget process. It is calculated with the tax-based growth factor, which is pretty much how fast is the city growing, is about 0.6%. You have the allowable New York State growth factor. This is where the 2% tax cap comes into play. So you grow by a maximum of 2% or, 2% or the CPI, and it's capped at 2%. And then there's a change in pilots and the change in the capital levy, which brings us down to the 2.44% of about $426,583. All right, we're going to talk about the revenue side of the budget. Again, we have an increase. We're looking at from a $96.8 million budget to just shy of $104 million. So an increase of just over $7 million. To offset that for the revenue, we have an increase of $2.7 million for state and federal aid. It's increasing from $68 million to $71 million. That is basically an increase in foundation aid and BOCES aid. But again, I need to make it very clear with the foundation aid, New York State has not yet passed a budget. It was due April 1st, but they have gone on their holiday break with another 4th extension on the budget. And the last word is that the foundation aid that they had given out in January could actually decrease. Usually when they get the aid runs in January, you're guaranteed that minimum. That is not the case this year because they are lowering that rate for the increase in the foundation aid formula.
So the 3.18% that we talked about possibly being an increase can actually be less.
Yes. Second one is other revenue. This includes interest, income, pilot payments, tuition and admission, student admissions. That's increasing about $1 million. As we will talk about further along, the interest rates have increased drastically over the last few years, and we have taken every advantage that we can to increase the interest revenue for the district. For this year alone, we're looking at about $2 million in interest income. So on the conservative side, we're going to balance the budget with $1 million of interest revenue for next year. And as we'll talk about later, interest rates are expected to decrease, not drastically, but they are going to decrease over time. So the conservative route would be about $1 million. Again, and the third one is your tax levy. This budget is proposing a 2.44% tax levy increase. And finally is the fund balance and reserves. We are increasing the amount of fund balance usage by almost $3 million, from 8.3 million to 11.7 million.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I'm a little bit confused because under the 24-25 actual, you have 96 million, but that is what was budgeted.
Correct.
You gave us a report in March. Our actual on March 18th was $47 million. Now, of course, that's not including the encumbered amounts, and we're not at the end of our fiscal year yet.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, this actual is not actual.
That is what was budgeted for the 24-25 year.
Right, but that's not what we actually spent, and that is not what we're actually going to be spending.
Those numbers can vary based on what's encumbered by the end of the year. It's also affected by any vacant positions that have not been filled by the end of the year.
So
there are many factors that play into it.
Right, so I guess my question is, if as of March 18th, we have spent $47 million, including in your estimation, including the encumbered by the end of the fiscal year, how close are we going to be to the $96 million that was budgeted and passed last year by the taxpayers?
The last, when I last calculated out the fund balance, it was going to increase by about $11 million. Hence the 11.7 that we're going to carry over into next year to balance the budget.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. What is our fund balance? As of June 30th, 2024, the end of last fiscal year, beginning of this fiscal year, we had a fund balance of almost $52 million, and that is broken up into 4 categories. We have the restricted fund balance, just shy of $19 million, and that is made up of the various reserves that the district holds. Those reserves include unemployment, retirement contributions, property loss, the capital reserves that we actually just approved to use for their project, and Laura tax treasury and so forth. As we're talking about, looking at our fund balance, other opportunities that we want to look down the road to help bring some of that fund balance down. You do not currently have a workers' compensation reserve, so that's something that we'd like to look at, and further increasing the insurance reserve. And of course, we will have on the ballot a furniture reserve and a new capital reserve. Assigned fund balance are the funds that are used to balance the budget, and it was just shy of $9 million for this year. Encumbrances are any outstanding purchase orders that have not been completed by the end of the year, and they get carried over from year to year, and that was just shy of $220,000. And finally, unassigned, which is the number that we're concerned about, it's just shy of $24 million, which is about 24% of your fund balance, 24% of the budget, and New York State recommends 4%, which we will talk about next. The fund balance management, New York State Comptroller, they talk about fund balance also acts as a cushion against normal variations in cash flow. And that's very important. That many districts have had many emergency situations come up, and they turned out they needed that fund balance to help, fix any projects. I know in my old district, we had a pipe burst in the auditorium. That was actually a fourth of the fund balance that we had at that point in time. And it also helps with short-term borrowing, which helped with the RAN issue that we had with the flood, and defer necessary spending or other desirable actions. Fiscal advisors actually recommends that they say 4% is pretty much outdated. There are other metrics that indicate that 10 to 15% is a good place to be, and that is a place that we are striving for. And finally, the Rockefeller report, which is the financial report issued by New York State this year. And even their recommendation is increasing the unrestricted fund balance limit for districts not on Save Harmless, which includes Watertown City School, to 10%. Make sure I'm keeping up with the slides there. Fund balance at Watertown, and how is it built? It's built by accumulation of actual revenues exceeding actual expenditures. And again, you're seeing that this year, you budgeted about $15,000 for interest, and you're going to accumulate $2 million in interest income. Exceeding actual expenditures, you're budgeting for positions, and we're having trouble filling them, so you have those expenditures, that money's still sitting there for those positions.
The one thing that I also mentioned during the staff budget presentation is grants. There are a lot of grant opportunities that the district receives, and so in those grants, there has to be a sustainability piece. And so the district has to, when we're adding those positions or grant funded positions, there has to be a sustainability piece built in so that those positions do not end when the grant ends. The idea is the grant, you're awarded the grant, this initiative's put in place, and that it can be carried out when the grant ends. And so initially there are some salaries that may be overinflated that aren't coming out of the salaries portion because the grant's covering it. But in a year or 2 years when the grant ends, the general fund would be covering that. So that's important to look at also. And we saw that, and the board's aware of that. At least most everyone, Tina, except for you, that last year you saw that. You saw over $4 million being carried over from those monies into the general fund out of the salary line.
Having a healthy fund balance that helps negotiate things such as salary negotiations. We do have a few contracts that are in negotiations right now. Also having a healthy fund balance helps reduce the cost of borrowing money. That's one of the things that Fiscal Advisors supports heavily for school districts because it does lower the interest rate on any debt that you're taking out. Also helps with your cash flow and any unbudgeted expenses.
The one thing that I shared earlier too is if anyone's familiar with like a condo. You know, when you live in a condo, you typically pay an HOA, and the HOA covers certain things. Sometimes it covers your insurance, sometimes it covers your roofs, your windows, your doors, those main exterior things. The fund balance, and I think of like Knickerbocker last year. Knickerbocker had boiler systems that were an issue. If we did not have the ability to repair those because of our fund balance last year, then there could have been a situation similar to what would happen in a condo situation, where you're going out and you're filing for a special assessment to raise the money that you're collecting to pay the cost of the roof, the windows, the doors, or whatever that needs to be replaced in a condo situation. So the same thing is true in a school district where it protects us. That's why when you look at us, and you'll hear it later on with the different propositions, the idea of creating these is to create a savings account to protect the district and, more importantly, our taxpayers for when something unexpected arises. There's some kind of our insurance carrier, our insurance premiums, that we have that money set aside to cover those unanticipated expenditures. The next one, I just want to talk about some fund balance management, some things that we are doing. We already mentioned the ARPA funds, we're aware of that. And so that is ending, and those salaries have been moved over to the general fund. But some other one-time thing, it was an initiative of the board months ago, I think towards the beginning of the year, to bring back marching band. You know, there are a lot of smaller districts in our region that have marching bands, the sense of pride that they bring to our district, whether they're playing at a basketball game or a football game through a pep band. We had the opportunity to participate in those interviews today. And Andrew's retirement, so we're looking forward to doing that. But one thing is, when you add marching band, if those of you that have costed things like that out, those uniforms are roughly almost $1,000 per student. And so the uniforms are very expensive. It's something that we don't have that initial cost, but it's not a cost that would carry from year to year. The other thing that would be built in there is the instruments to get the marching band up and running. The next thing is the district vehicles. Right now, we pay a significant amount of money when we want to use the vehicles to transport 1 student, 4 students, 10 students, to whether it's an athletic event. The vans would allow us the opportunity to transport students. The DOT law on that is that as long as they're transporting students less than 30 days in a calendar year, that a teacher could file to be a driver to transport kids. It could be a special ed class that wants to take their kids to a life skill, whether they want to teach them how to grocery shop, go to a laundromat. It could be a group of teachers that are going to a professional development. Instead of right now, we're currently reimbursing faculty and staff that are traveling with reimbursements at the IRS rate. That would alleviate the need to do that. Those vehicles, I will say, are 90% covered on our transportation aid. So we get 90 cents on the dollar for those vans. And then the other thing is our maintenance trucks. Right now, if you look, we're noticing this with a lot of things, but we're correcting, and it's not all things that we can do in 1 year. Our maintenance vehicles on average are 14 years old. And so when you look at owning your own personal vehicle, you wouldn't keep it that long because you're going to have a lot of things that you're going to have to replace. And so oftentimes now with our maintenance vehicles, there's a transmission that needs to be replaced. There's something else that needs to be replaced, and to the tune of up to $7,000 per occurrence. What we would like to do is get the maintenance vehicles on a 5-year rotation so that we are selling them before we're making a significant depreciation and paying significant costs that we're losing. So that's that. The other thing I mentioned during the staff budget presentation is the high school auditorium stage. And what I said to the staff is every school, every student, every teacher, every staff member, and every community member that benefits from our high school and having a presentable high school stage. Our high school stage has probably not been done since it was put there. And it shows there's a lot of great memories on the stage, but I am fear of a safety issue with it. So currently over spring break, a one-time purchase is getting that stage 4 replaced, and that's happening next week. In addition to that, the Wiley stairs, if you're familiar with the walker door entry at Wiley, those stairs are a trip hazard. Some of the flooring is coming up, so that's also being done. So when you're looking at fund balance management, you're looking at things that you can do as a one-time expense that don't carry over from year to year, and that would be that. The other thing that we've been looking at, the board, those of us that serve on the F&F committee, the Finance and Facilities Committee, we've been talking about outdoor learning spaces. They have a old tennis court at North Elementary School, and we're looking at creating an engaging outside learning space for those students, and also to bring some pride to the north side of our city. These are just examples of one-time projects that would not have carryover expenses.
Next slide talks about reserves. Reserves have very strict rules, such as the establishment of a reserve. Most reserves can be established by a simple resolution of the board, but others are required by a vote of the public, such as your capital reserve, which the IT reserve that we've been talking about falls under that. And to spend it, that capital reserves also require a vote from the public. Other reserves are simply a resolution from the board. They're funded by overestimated expenditures. So if there's extra money at the end of the year in your general fund, some of those funds are carried over into a reserve. And some examples of planned assistance from reserves or other fund balance management, reserving money in the tax tertiary reserve. Use of the IT reserve, as we mentioned before, that's on the proposition to purchase safety-related equipment, and we're going to continue funding retirement reserves. And again, as we talked about furniture, the new furniture reserve and the new capital reserve. Notable budgetary highlights from a revenue aspect, as I mentioned before, we have our interest income. The district funds are diversified into 3 institutions. That's Watertown Savings Bank, Community Bank, and NICLAS. And the interest earnings from those 3 institutions were reaching about $2 million for this year. Foundation aid for the 24-25 year, the current year, this was the second year of fully funding foundation aid in New York State. So Watertown City School District saw an increase of 8.77% in their foundation aid for this year. For the 25-26, the initial funding is only 3.18%. That's a difference about $3 million from year over year. Again, as I said, the budget has not been passed by the state, and that 3.18 could be 2.9, or it could stay 3.18. We don't know at this point in time. On the expense side, again, as we mentioned over the last few months, utilities, natural gas and electricity are increasing about 10%. The health insurance premium has gone up 6%. the ERS retirement contributions, this is the retirement contributions the district pays on behalf of non-instructional employees. That rate is 19.6%. Liability insurance, which is, as Dr. Shmuley said, is basically your state farm insurance. That's increasing 40%. And the transportation contract, which has been renewed, is an increase between 13 and 16%.
One of the things I just want to tell the board that we've learned since the last board meeting, we have been trying to go out and shop for possibly different insurance. However, there are limited insurance to cover a school district. And so we looked outside and we got sent right back to the current insurance carrier. So we're kind of stuck at that. And there was also the deductibles. Thank you.
Looking
So
at
that piece is good. Sorry, I'm just
No,
my
you're
mind
okay.
frozen. With the deductible piece going up, and whether it's 25,000, 50,000, 75,000, 90,000 as a deductible, depending on the issue, that money has to come from somewhere. So that money would come from fund balance. So that would be one of those insurance search for.
All right, we're looking at the different categories of expenses in the budget. As you notice, salaries is the largest at a 6.9 million increase from 44.2 to 51.1. But we will take a look at each of these separate categories as we go along. We have 3 different slides to address the increase in salaries. Again, salaries are increasing $6.9 million. On the instructional side, we're looking at adding 2 girls flag football coaches, 1 assistant coach for the indoor track. The participation has increased and we find a need for an assistant coach. Case is going to have 1 hall monitor, 4 teacher assistants at Knickerbocker, Ohio, Sherman, and Starbuck. 1 first grade teacher at Sherman, a summer school TA at the high school, 1 language teacher at the high school, expanding the art program by half of our art teacher at the high school, and 1 science teacher. And of course, also Cyclone Academy Junior. For the support side, we're looking to add 1 assistant director of facilities and an elementary SSO. Special education. And this is a large increase in the budget, about 1/3. There are several positions that have to be added to stay in compliance with New York State. We have an occupational therapist, a 12-1 teacher at the high school, a consultant teacher at the high school, 2 15-1 TAs over at North. Sherman needs a cluster aide. Starbucks adding a 12-1-3-1 program. Case is 15-1. And of course, 3 buildings, the high school, Wiley, and Starbuck are looking for 3 12-1-3-1 TAs and 2 CSE chairs.
One of the things that I want to say, and we do have Matt Burdick here if there are any specific questions to special education, but adding these positions, we've had an amazing relationship over the years with BOCES. BOCES is having the same issues that the districts are facing with staffing. They're seeing an increased number of students that require a higher level of care or support. And so in order to meet students' IEP needs, individual education plan needs, these are regulations that we have to meet. The other thing that's a huge increase impact to the district and every other district around New York State, it used to be called Fake 21, to where students had the right to stay in school until their 21st birthday. It is now Fake 22. So students that are in special education, depending on their IEP, they have the right to stay at our high school until their 22nd birthday. And a big significant thing with special education is there can't be above a 3-year age gap with the students in each classroom, so it creates a need in that building and other buildings. And so this is the most significant increase. Last year it was Case adding the additional team in order to provide AIS services in this building to close the gap and increase the graduation rate. It is our desire to really perfect and enhance our continuum of special education services so that we can meet the needs of our students that are diverse and ever-changing. The other thing that I will say is that this year we have had several classrooms that were beyond capacity. When you look at these numbers, 12-1, 3-1, that means 12 students should be in that class. There were instances that maybe 15 kids were in a class or 17 kids were in a class. Matt is able to apply to the state for a variance, but it's a one-time variance. the state, you know, we've worked hard to get off one list for special education, we're working to get off the other one. These are services that the state is asking us to provide in order to meet the needs of our students. And we cannot keep asking for variances for ones that we've already asked for in the past. Matt, do you want to add anything that?
Just like our TAs are all everyone programs, just so you guys know, aides are not going to be left alone with students, so they're all with different programs currently. We have a number of aides that are working in there. Without the TAs, there's a student crisis or the teacher needs to leave the room or the teacher is out for the day. That by having TAs in those rooms, they can step into the instructional role and don't have kids sitting there without those in place. So, you know, as far as like consultant teacher services at the high school, for those who don't know, consultant teacher services are special ed teachers pushing into classes to provide support. Our other special ed model resource unit where students are pulled out of the classroom in groups of 5. We've done some research in other districts like Indian River. At the school level, they have 9 special ed teachers. We have 7. We have additional 4 students. So every district that have special ed services that we don't provide because of the lack of staffing in high school specifically. So having consultant services will allow us to provide necessary support.
Matt, I have a couple, some of this might be common knowledge to some people, but I'm not in special ed and people ask me and I don't like to give wrong information. So when you have, when it's described here 12-1-1, that means that there's 12 kids, 1 teacher and 1 TA.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what does 12-1-3-1 mean?
12-1-3-1 means 12 students to 1 teacher. And for every 3 students that are in that classroom, there has to be at least 3 students. It's our that programs for students that have physical disabilities, non-verbal autistic students, all disabled. So they require some.
So there would be 4 teachers in there, 4 TAs.
There are aides right now. So right now it's 1 teacher and there's an aide that's
For every 3. So are these numbers arbitrary? Because I hear also there's an 8-1-1, 6-1-1, like who decides, are there ranks for that? Or do as a district, do we decide based on the need? Like who decides what these numbers are when you have smaller classrooms and more 1-to-1 for these students?
Yeah, it's there are regulations from the state in the past. We have had our own 6-1-1 or 8-1-1 programs. What we have found over the last few years, we have a great partnership with BOCES, but they have limited availability to take on additional students based on their staffing needs.
That and they have 18 districts competing for those 6 seats.
Yeah, when you go to the state and say if BOCES doesn't have programs, that's where we're at right now. We just recently changed our model at Knickerbocker to add programs to meet the level of needs of some of the students that are there. And, so those are some of the new programs that you see here is we don't have any some students out with that level of support, so we've had to create our own.
Okay, thank you.
Matt, what's a cluster aid?
Cluster aid, so cluster aid goes into general education classes and they provide support to a small group of students.
Mhm.
We currently have 1 over at Sherman. And, excuse me, with the current schedule for the elementary level, they've been constrained to be able to provide minutes that are on 90. So they go in for 30 minutes, let's say, to their classroom, provide support to a small group of students, then they go to the next classroom to provide support. And the structure of the schedule to be able to compliance with the meeting. So having additional cluster aid will have 2 that can go in and provide support directly to
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
And the last part with salaries is in relation to the pre-kindergarten program.
So this is looking at, in addition, this is something that we do not currently have. What I will say before I go over this slide, you see on the screen, is currently right now we have partnerships with CEOs. Beth Mark is in the audience today, our pre-K principal, Matt Burdick, and also additional staff have met, Krista Wargo being one, have met with our CEOs and our incoming kindergarten teachers to help smooth that transition for some of our friends that are coming into kindergarten with some challenging needs. These allocations are new, they are different. They allow us to build our continuum of services. So this proposal would be adding 2 special education classrooms. If you're familiar with like a co-top model, there would be more of a co-top model. So there would be a gen ed teacher in the class, a special education teacher in the class, which is what's currently being provided in our 4410s, in our 4410 programs. And then there would be also a teacher assistants. This is the district taking over. The district right now, we do have a partnership with Jefferson County. So these positions are built into the budget, but in the following year, they would be money that the district would be receiving back. So this would be looking at kids that are coming in pre-K with identifying needs. This is looking at having our own speech pathologist, our own occupational therapist, our own physical therapist, and psychologist available so that when parents are recommending their kid be tested or a pediatrician's recommending a kid be tested, this would provide the staff on hand to make sure that we're able to conduct these tests and to provide the classroom support to make it happen. It will better align our pre-K kids that are in special education classes now with our district, as they would be district teachers and district service providers. So they would be conducting the evaluation, providing the service, and then the programming through the class. So this is new this year as a proposal.
We don't have this sheet.
We updated it and put it on the on board docs.
So this is a dedicated team.
This is a dedicated team for pre-K.
And there's, I don't know, Matt, maybe you know the answer to this. There's no opportunity for our current occupational therapists, physical speech, or psychologists to provide those needs at the pre-K level. Is our volume that intense that we need a dedicated team? I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm just, to me, that's shocking that we need a whole team. That's a lot of kids.
A lot of it, a lot of evaluations of that level.
That take time.
Making sure that they have the necessary supports and services in place. I know on the previous slide, we're looking at adding an additional occupational therapist. I met with our 3 occupational therapists. They actually came to me. They have currently about 70 students on the caseload. And that's improvement services, evaluations, they have wait lists that they can meet. So I think making sure that we're starting those services at a young age so that people
I think the other big thing, Melody, the difference is the at a pre-K age level, they could receive special education services for a related service. Where if a kid, when they become that compulsory age in kindergarten, they have to meet one of the 13 qualifying disabilities. And so it is not uncommon for even more kids to qualify for special education services in pre-K and then be declassified in some cases as they move to kindergarten. But this would provide that level of support so that we know. Right now, we do have a relationship. Shannon does work with the county, but too often, people are being referred and then the county doesn't have enough people to provide the service. And so people are being put on the wait list. And to add to that further is that one of the things we've learned over the last 2 board meetings is that if the county is not able to provide the service, the district is legally obligated. It's hard to be obligated when you don't have the staff. So this would allow us to provide the services and, more importantly, ensure that our kids' needs are being met. So when they get into kindergarten, they have the best chance of reading on level, doing math on level, excelling socially, emotionally. So there's a lot of things that the district and the board has done to get to this point. We've added a behavioral support team with Krista Wargo and her TAs this year, the transition meetings that Beth and Matt are organizing, but we need more. the teachers are recognizing that we did something significant going into this year, but we need more. And so we're looking at more tiered supports that our kids, we can meet the needs. Lynn's doing an amazing job at the primary grades with the instructional side of the house. We're seeing amazing gains there, but it starts in pre-K. And if those foundational cracks exist in pre-K, the hopes of closing that in kindergarten is more difficult.
Yeah, no, I think this is great. Has this been communicated to the CBOs?
Nope, because we don't know if the board's gonna approve it and the
Oh.
community is gonna approve it. So
They'll be very happy with this. This is exactly what they wanted.
I hope so.
Note at the bottom, total salaries is $51 million. That represents just shy of 50% of the proposed budget. If you include the benefits, we're at 72.2%. And as I've mentioned before, the average is about 75% for salaries and benefits in a district. The next couple of slides are going to be a little quick, just some slight increases. Equipment's increasing about $175,000. The proposed budget is about $2.3 million. This includes, of course, classroom furniture, instructional instruments, athletic equipment, but most notably the 4 vans for student transportation and the 1 maintenance vehicle. Contractual and tuition increasing just almost at $180,000, a total appropriation of about $9 million for the 25-26 year. This represents your building maintenance work, utilities, district services such as legal, auditing, and so forth. And of course, it also represents the transportation contract. The previous transportation contract was dated 2018, so 7 years ago. It was a 5-year contract with 2 1-year extensions. So that represented about a 13 to 16% increase, but there were also new routes included, such as the elementary after-school activity bus,
That was
tardy
something that
bus.
we added to this year that we want to be able to carry over for next year, that leveled the playing field for kids that needed a ride to and from, or from their activities at the elementary level, to include Wiley. The tardy bus is something that the district had years ago. When the driver retired, it kind of stopped. It was a district driver. That bus went around. As I said to the staff today, you know, when you look at closing the achievement gap for all kids, it doesn't make sense to us as a leadership team that when kids, you know, if a parent oversleeps or what have you, to have them miss the entire instructional day. And so this activity bus will be something that we'll be working with First Student and with our principals, homeschool coordinators, secretaries, et cetera, so that if a kid needs to go be picked up, they can be brought to school. The next thing is the Cyclone Academy bus. This year we added the Cyclone Academy bus because we know if we're not offering transportation, we're not leveling the playing field and kids are less likely to come to school. We also this year, and you may have remembered us saying this, we also added that transportation to our students in the GED program to jump on that bus as well. And the other thing that we've added this year, kind of piloted, and Mike is here if you have any questions for that. There are kids that have needed the activity bus or the athletic bus to go home so that they have the opportunity to participate in sports. So we're looking at expanding that next year as well.
Supplies and software, just a slight decrease of $136,000. The majority of that decrease, just to be clear, was pretty much in the IT related services. There was some duplicity of expenses budgeted in IT, and that was cleaned up with this. About $2 million are budgeted for materials and supplies. BOCES. We did finally get our final BOCES figures, so that increase went from $1 million to $629,000. The biggest increase it was in the support services, which is the IT services with the MORIC, an increase of $1.1 million. A lot of the changes in the BOCES billing is just reallocation of expenses, but the IT does have some big projects that they're looking at proposing for next year. There was a decrease in instructional for $420,000, and then employee benefits was an increase of $233,000. Again, just some reallocation. There was no elimination of any programs whatsoever. And also to note, our BOCES aid ratio is 78.6%. We'll receive that in the following year.
One of the things that I want to, before we move off of BOCES, one of the things we were able to work with BOCES this year on is providing transportation to our cosmetology students. We had cosmetology students that if they had a vehicle and were able to go to cosmetology on the weekend to get that the hours that they needed to leave with an endorsement, they were benefiting from getting they had their own transportation. They received their endorsement. This year I signed a contract with BOCES to provide transportation to kids that don't have vehicle transportation of their own. And there were possibly up to 12 kids that benefited from that. So we're looking, when we say leveling the playing field, we're looking at some of our kids and families that maybe don't have things to be able to provide that. We want every kid, if they can leave 12th grade in our high school with an endorsement or a certification that can make them employable, that's the whole thing behind Portrait of a Graduate and the Blue Ribbon Commission in New York State.
Textbooks is a slight decrease of $90,000 with a proposed budget of just shy of $400,000. And that was just cleaning up some little extra fluff in there. Employee benefits. Now, I know we've mentioned over and over again, you know, the ERS rate has increased, health insurance has increased. However, once going through the budget and trying to organize things to the way I like to see it, it appeared that there was a lot of fluff in different areas of employee benefits. So that's why you're going to see an actual decrease of almost $500,000 in that category alone. So the budget appropriation for employee benefits is almost $24 million. Debt service is decreasing slightly, $102,000. These numbers were verified with fiscal advisors. These are just the payments that are owed on our debt. And finally, the interfund transfers, the general fund supplements the special aid fund with any BOCES special ed programming, and of course the $100,000 capital outlay. There is no change in that dollar amount year over year. Unless, of course, we get lucky and they decide that the capital outlay can be $250. One can only dream. All right, we're gonna look at our three-part budget. We're required to introduce this as part of the budget process. It's broken down to administration, instruction, or otherwise known as programming, and capital. The it's decreasing $600,000 from 7.5 million to 6.9. Instruction, which is where you really want to see the increase, and that's increasing about $7 million, 5 million to almost 82. And then, of course, the capital, which is your debt service and your bus purchases, 14.3 million to 15.2, so about $900,000. Again, this proposed budget is reflecting a tax levy of 2.44%. The tax levy does equal the maximum amount per the tax cap calculation. I know that's really hard to see, and I apologize, but I believe you have a printed copy in your hands. What the 2.44% means is on a $100,000 home in the city of Watertown. Again, everything's based on equalization value on your town. A $100,000 home would see about a $27 increase in their tax bill. And we have different propositions that are going to be on the budget besides the budget itself. The first is the 2 open board seats for Coley Gosier and Millie Smith. Proposition number 2 will be the new capital reserve of $15 million.
And I want to add a comment to that one because the with the voters' support of the 10 million capital project, you may have heard that we brought this to the board twice. We originally brought it to the board at a $10 million capital reserve fund, and we raised it to 15 million. What I shared at the last board meeting, the rationale for that, when any of these propositions, when you're creating a capital reserve fund, it is voter authorized to create, and it's also voter authorized to expend. And so what's important to understand that when you create it, and say you created at $10 million, you can't go over by $10,001,001. And so the idea is that the current 10 million that the voters approved when they approved our capital project, that 10 million is now going to be expended capital project and to not influence our taxes in a negative way, the residents' taxes. And so this project, because we know that beyond roofs, windows, doors, heating systems, and secure vestibules of the schools that don't have them, we know that we need to get in and impact instructional spaces to make sure that our kids and our teachers have the instructional spaces they need to make sure that our kids have the 21st century learning as possible. So by creating this $15 million reserves, it doesn't mean that it's fully funded in 1 year. It doesn't mean that it's fully funded in 2 years. It's a 10-year commitment, and that will get us to our second capital project in the 110 million What we envision is the 110 million, again, no negative tax impact to our taxpayers. We're gonna plan on a second project behind the first one, and our hope is that there would be zero tax impact to our taxpayers as well. And so by creating this account, it's going to help us go out with another capital project and start influencing our instructional spaces. So it's just like at your house. You put money into a savings. At some point you want to renovate your bathrooms, or maybe your kitchen or your roof needs to be done, or your windows need to be done. It's putting money in a savings account for future use without having to go to the taxpayers and have a special levy to levy this. Remember, as a school district, our ability to raise money comes in very few ways. And one of the ways to do that is through our tax dollars that we collect through our tax levies. And so I just wanted to throw that out with that piece.
Proposition number 3, we're looking to create a furniture reserve of $1 million over a life of 10 years.
I want to comment on that one too, sorry.
No, please.
So one of the things that I learned, so the $13 million capital project was approved before I was appointed superintendent here, which I'm glad and thankful that it was. But it created a beautiful music room, both band and vocal at Wiley, created a beautiful art room at Wiley, and office spaces. And you had beautiful new spaces with old furniture put back in those spaces. You know, similar to when we do things around our house, you want that complete project and that complete look and that complete feel. And as I said, you know, there's a lot of things that the district is doing to reduce behavior. And you heard at the high school, it's been decreased over 50%. You saw today on the case when it's reduced significantly. A part of that is looking at our furniture too. Our needs of our kids are significantly increasing. And so, you know, when you look at that wooden chair, as nice as it is, it doesn't meet the need of every kid that maybe needs that physical movement. And so what we're looking at by creating this furniture reserve is, and there's another component to this, when you work on a renovation project, renovations do not include aid on furniture. You can only get aid on furniture once. And so when the building's constructed, and in some of our buildings, they're old, and so we're not going to get aid again unless we do this. So this gives us an opportunity to start putting money away with the understanding that we are going to be impacting instructional spaces, and we want furniture that meets the needs of today's kids in those spaces, and adults. And so that allows us to create that reserve account for that. Again, voter approved to expend.
Proposition number 4 is a security proposition. Because the IT reserve is a capital reserve under the rule of law, it does require voter authorization to spend the money. And the items that we're looking to purchase, as previously discussed, were the open gate weapon detection system at Case in the high school and district-wide handheld radio system. And the last few slides is just the information for early mail voting and absentee ballots, and the open enrollment for continuous voter registration.
Just if we can go back to that slide. Yes. For anybody that's listening into the open enrollment piece. One of the things that the board approved early on was to allow our district to be in open enrollment. That was something that took board action to approve. Typically, there was one day of the year, typically in April, that voters could come in and register to vote in the school district budget. And these are people that are not automatically registered in the county. If they're registered in the county, we use their role. We don't need them to re-register to vote in our budget. However, for those people that are not registered with the county that would like to register to vote with the district budget, but not the county, they can come and see Michelle. It's on the screen Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. and they can actually register to vote. And we encourage anyone to use their voice and to take advantage of this opportunity that was newly afforded to us.
And as a reminder, the budget vote is Tuesday, May 20th, 2025, from 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. We have 2 locations, the Watertown High School and North Elementary. And that concludes the presentation.
I have a few budget questions. I don't know if you want me to ask them now. I'd rather ask them now since you just finished and it's fresh. So last time I asked what were the codes for the Cyclone Academy, you said 2,300. So I looked at that And those codes say teaching special schools, instructional salaries.
Yes,
So I'm assuming that the big jump in the salary is including the Cyclone Academy. The Cyclone Academy doesn't have its own line item.
correct.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. The other question I have is the foundation aid formula. Isn't that formula based on the socioeconomic status of the kids that are within the community?
It is, but there's also CPI increases, inflationary increases. And the last I heard from the emails that we received from NISBA and ASBO was they're changing the inflationary rate from 3.18 down to 2.9. So that could decrease what we potentially get, but we don't know yet.
Okay, and when does that come out?
Well, that's a very good question.
It's supposed to be April 1st.
Yes, it's supposed to be April 1st. They have yet to pass the budget. I can't remember what they're holding up on. But they just went out on their holiday leave and won't be back until after Easter.
And then the last question I have is the 2.44% tax levy.
Yes.
That is the maximum that we can ask the taxpayers to approve.
For a simple majority vote,
For a
correct?
simple, okay,
So the board could say 2.88, but then it would need a supermajority.
right. I just wanted to clarify that that's the maximum. Okay,
Thank you, Britt.
thank you.
You are welcome.
Okay. Anybody else have any further? Items for consent agenda.
Resolve that consent agenda items A, B, and C are hereby approved.
Motion, please.
Lori?
Lori, a second.
Tina?
Tina, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Items for board action.
Resolve that the Watertown City School District hereby approves the 25-26 proposed administrative budget for the Jeff Lewis, Herkimer, Hamilton, Oneida Board of Cooperative Educational Services as presented to the component districts.
Motion, please.
Tina?
Lori and Tina. Discussion. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Be it resolved that the Watertown City School District Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, approves the nominations of Michael Kramer and Jennifer Jones to fill the 3-year terms of office, July 1, 2025 through June 30, 2028, on the Board of Cooperative Educational Services. One vote is cast for each of the following 2 candidates to fill 3 vacancies.
Motion, please. Oh, Kelly, a second.
Tina?
Tina, discussion. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Resolved that the Watertown City School District School Property Tax Report Card for the 25-26 proposed school budget is hereby approved.
Motion, please.
Tina?
Tina, a second.
Lori?
Lori, any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Resolved that the proposed budget of $103,909,155 of the Watertown City School District of the City of Watertown for the fiscal year commencing July 1, 2025 is hereby adopted, and the same shall be submitted for approval by the qualified voters of the school district at this budget vote school board election to be held on Tuesday, May 20th, 2025.
Motion, please.
Lori?
Lori, a second. Kelly, discussion.
So I have a comment. Bree, I appreciate all the updates on how hard you've worked in delineating exactly where all of our increases are. You know, I've looked at this budget very carefully, and over the last 3 budget seasons, we've had a significant surplus in funds. And I do understand, and I think the community needs to understand also, that our fund balance is very important, like you said. It's very important to keep that reserve. And last year, we were lucky enough to do a 0% tax levy, which was a hard thing to do, but we did it. And we also said, and at the very minimum, that we would never do that again. It's not financially viable to do that and to continue to do that. So in the spirit of that, we had the turf field, we did a lot of great things. We gave the community back something tangible that they could look at. I think based on your presentation, I like when you said that most of our increase should be in instructional. And, you know, Katie introduced all these things at Case Middle School that I was unaware of. And I think that in that, you know, forward movement, it's important for us to substantiate the budget. And I will support the budget. My only question is this, and it's obviously not my decision because I'm just one and there's, you know, the rest of the board. But if our tax levy is 2.44, and the reason I asked is that the maximum, and the answer was yes, that's the maximum. I would just ask the board if we could do a little bit better than that. And the only reason I'm saying that is because we are very fortunate. We are in a very good financial position, but really $103 million and, you know, it is what it is. Like I said, I think that you said a lot of good things about why the budget had to go up to 103. But I just think that maybe we could do a little bit better than the 2.44. I don't know that that's, you know, that we have to decide that right now. If we have to vote on this so that it can move forward and it can be, nothing's final, right?
If this isn't voted on today, then it has to be on the ballot, so the board does have to act.
Right, I guess my question is, I understand that part, my question is, if we were to decide to lower the tax levy, we would still be able to put that on the ballot.
What you're approving today is the 2.44.
So, in other words, if we approve this today, there's no going back.
Correct. Unless you do a special board meeting and.
Okay.
Because you're actually approving the budget tonight.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna put it out there then, like, I feel like we could do a little bit better than a 2.44.
If I can add to what you're
Sure,
saying, just to give you some information that you may not have, because I just got it today, this afternoon. So we did go out at a 0% tax levy increase, and the loss in revenues was $489,000. And when you look at it initially, you're like, okay, $489,000 for a district that has a reserve, that doesn't sound bad. The part that I dug into today, because I really wanted to educate myself on, is the compounding piece. So say we went out at 2% or 1.99, whichever sounded better.
Yeah.
And then you went at 0 this year. Over a 5-year period of time, because of the compounding piece, the district would have lost $6.5 million in money.
Yeah.
Not interest, but money.
Right.
When you look at the fact that the state has not given us a solid number, so it may not be 3.18. When you look at the fact that the district, this moving into next year, not this year, but moving into next year, we're losing 5.5% in our foundation aid because we were fully funded this year. That's $3 million in lost revenues. When you look at the additional programs that we're looking at adding, if we keep on this path, then our expenses are going to exceed our revenues. For that, I would recommend it. But that's my own, I did the research today because I wanted to figure out the compounding piece. Because 489 sounds low until you figure out 5 years down that the district will be losing about 6.5. And in order to recover, so say the district in 5 years, because it's hard, you guys are making a decision today to project out that far. If the district said, you know what, we really need that 6.5 million back, they would have to have a super majority and not a 2.44, but a 12% tax levy in order to recoup that money.
And, you know, I respect what you say, I really do, but really in the last 3 years, whatever the taxpayers have approved, we haven't even come close to it in terms of expenditure. So I don't believe that our expenses are gonna exceed our, what we our budget. But I can't guarantee that.
They already are, because in here it shows you that they're exceeding the revenues. But right now, we're using 11 point something million to cover that. That savings account is going to deplete, even in a 5-year period of time. 50,000 is gone and 23,000 or 23 million is in restricted that we can't even touch. And we're proposing with this budget
to add an insurance piece to cover the district for liability. We're looking at workman's comp that we currently are not insured for. That is a liability that it's hard to predict.
Sure. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
I wanna say, I know that Bree, brought up at $100,000, the median home price is $237,250, and the average taxpayer pays $2,800. That's $6,832 a year and $5.39 a month increase. So I think if we break it down that way, just to keep us safe, because interest rates are going to go down in the next year, that's a given, that we're gonna lose that money. So that's just my opinion on it.
That's not gonna work out when our property taxes go up 20% next year.
We're not talking about city council, we're talking
No,
about school.
no, we were talking about the residents of the city of Watertown, so irrespective of city council or the school board, it's the same people that are paying the taxes. So, I mean, I'm not arguing with what you're saying, your math is right, but next year our taxes are gonna go up, so it's just gonna pile on. That's just a reality. You don't have to agree with it, it's a reality.
Kind of reminds me of what I said, what was it, 2 board meetings ago or 1? Sorry, they're blend, some of them blend. But we had talked about, Bree and I sit on the health insurance consortium for the region. And we were looking at last year going out at a 3%. And we had some people say, go down in at 0, in at 0, in at 0, don't raise it. Now this year they're raising the cost 6%. And so the idea with the tax levy is to raise it a small amount each year that's predictable, that taxpayers can rely on, instead of having to say, now we need to raise it 12% to cover an unexpected cost.
No, I mean, that's fine, but I feel like everyone should know like what the real numbers are, so.
Okay. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Whereas after public advertising for bids for restoration of the North Elementary School land survey proposal, copies of specifications were furnished to 3 vendors and 3 bids were received. Whereas the firm submitting the lowest responsible bid, meeting the specifications for the restoration of the North Elementary School land survey proposal, was Jacobs Land Surveying. Therefore, be it resolved that Jacobs Land Surveying in the amount of $9,100. No, that's not right.
9,000.
Okay, that is right. Need to count it. Sorry about that. $9,100 is noted in the bid is hereby approved.
And by approving this, it approves us to move forward with getting RFPs for the outside learning space. That can also help aid in any other future capital projects.
I have a question. So it costs $9,000 to survey north?
The level of detail that place needs to look underneath the cement, but that's gonna help us with the site improvements that need to be made at that building as a part of the capital project. So this will actually help a variety of issues, similar to our high school case and Wiley with having the level of surveying that we're doing.
Did we put the bid out to all local? How do we put this bid out?
This, so your architect sends it out, your construction manager sends it out. Did we put that in the newspaper or not?
Put that one in.
Yeah, I think our architect takes responsibility with advertising.
Do I get a motion?
Nope, not.
Okay, can I get a motion?
Tina.
Dean, second.
Aye.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I understand Kelsey Shepis is here tonight. If you'd like to stand up. Thank you.
Resolved that upon the recommendation of Dr. Larry Schmiegel, Superintendent of Schools, the appointment of Kelsey Shepis as K-12 principal in the district is hereby approved.
Motion, please. Kelly, second.
Lori.
Lori. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I wanted to say, can I say something? Wanted to thank, we had 2 retired principals, Terry Gonseth and Mike Lennox. When Kelsey was hired, the board approved her at the December board meeting. She was hired for the high school, and the district did something that we've never done before and created an internship kind of experience at Ohio with Jessica's departure to Sandy Creek. And Kelsey, according to the teachers and those veteran principals that the district really enjoys and loves, admire, spoke very highly of your capability and how you jumped in on day one and started doing the job of principal. So congratulations, and the board shows their level of support tonight by saying yes.
Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, Dr. Larry Schmiegel, the Board of Education hereby approves the following: resignations, leave of absence, appointment probationary instructional, term non-probationary instructional, teachers on special assignment, STEM program, permanent, lead teachers, substitutes instructional, substitutes non-instructional.
Motion please.
Tina,
second.
Lori,
Lori, discussion.
I have a question for you, Tina.
Yes.
Just, teachers on special assignment and then lead teachers, some of those are the same people. What's the difference?
Yes, and Lynn and I have had this discussion before, but
Yeah.
basically they serve the role as a coach in the district instructional coach, but they're also known as lead teachers, which is actually what they are. So they,
But what is a lead teacher? Is it,
He was
are they
correct.
in the classroom?
No, well,
Oh, okay.
some of the lead teachers are in the classroom, so the lead teacher as a peer assignment would be somebody that is a conduit between administration and the department. They have department meetings.
We have
they do
two here
budgets.
tonight.
Yes.
Bridget and Lori Pons.
Yes, but then lead teacher, we also name our coaches to that because it has a stipend with it that allows our coaches to like travel between buildings, do different things without having to get into the nitty gritty of all the reimbursements with that.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Resolve upon the recommendation of Dr. Larry C. Schmiegel, Superintendent of Schools, that Mary Hughes will serve as a per diem Director of Food Service effective July 1, 2025, and will be compensated at the daily rate of $385 per day.
Just wanted to explain the rationale for this. Mary unfortunately was sick and not able to be here tonight, otherwise she would have been. We currently, the board approved a new director of food service. Our new director of food service begins on May 1st. Some of the state and federal reporting for food service happens once a month. So we wanted the ability to call Mary in on a day to help him do the billing at the month end to make sure that he has the level of support. It's not like we have other directors of food services in our district that we could easily hire to come in and provide that service. And we have someone retiring in our district with a great reputation and wonderful skill set. And so that's why we're bringing that to the board today for approval.
Okay, motion please.
Tina,
second.
Lori.
Lori, discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Whereas a resolution was passed by the Board of Education on April 1, 2025, approving the resignation date of Lucinda Diaz to be April 4th, 2025, and be it further resolved that this amended resolution reflects a change in resignation date to be April 18th, 2025, and is hereby approved.
Motion please.
Tina,
second. Vote, discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Resolved that an employment agreement by and between the Watertown City School District and Tina M. Lane for the period of July 1, 2025 through June 30, 2028 is hereby approved.
Motion please. Kelly, second.
Tina.
Discussion.
Thank you for your continued service.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Resolved that the following revised Board of Education policies are hereby approved and adopted. 1003, community use of school facilities. 4202, deposits. 7602, providing a safe public school choice to students who have been victims of a violent criminal offense.
Lori.
Lori, a second?
Tina.
I think Mike did.
Tina,
Was it Tina?
Yeah.
Okay.
discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I think we
You
missed
skipped
one.
one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probationary period.
Yep, I'm gonna do that one on the fly. Just, second. Okay. Resolved that upon the recommendation of Dr. Larry C. Schmiegel, Superintendent of Schools, the probationary appointment of a non-instructional employee is hereby discontinued effective April 11, 2025.
Motion please.
Lori.
Lori, a second?
Tina.
Tina, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Pick up where I left off. Okay. Resolve that the sale, disposal, or recycle of outdated, unused, and generally in poor condition pianos from H.T. Wiley Intermediate School, as per the list reviewed by the board, is hereby approved.
Motion please.
Tina.
Tina, a second? Kelly, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, resolved that the disposal, recycle, or donation of damaged, outdated, and unused books from the libraries at Watertown High School and H.T. Wiley Intermediate School, as per the list reviewed by the board, is hereby approved.
Motion please.
Lori.
Lori, a second?
Tina.
Tina, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Resolved that a donation from a parent in the district, Mr. Rajim Richardson, for several hygiene items to be dispersed among the schools and the district for students in need. This donation is gratefully accepted and approved and will be acknowledged in writing.
Motion please.
Tina.
Tina, a second?
Lori.
Lori, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you for the donation.
Resolved that a donation from the Safe Schools Endeavor for the Northern New York Community Foundation for $1,300, designated as support for speaker fees and materials for Human Trafficking Awareness Day. This donation is gratefully accepted and approved and will be acknowledged in writing.
Motion please. Kelly, a second?
Lori.
Lori, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any abstention? Any opposed? Motion carries.
That is the end of the resolutions.
Okay. Here tonight, we should address the board on non-agenda related public comments. Okay. Some upcoming days to share: Friday, April 18th is Good Friday holiday and all buildings are closed. Monday, the 21st 21st through Friday the 25th, there is spring recess, so there is no school. Monday, April 28th, the community budget presentation is at Case Middle School Auditorium, 5:30. And Tuesday, May 6th, a public hearing for the proposed 25-26 school budget and the regular Board of Education meeting are at HCY District Office Conference Room, beginning at 5:30. Go around the room. Millie?
Thank you to Case Middle School. Katie did a great job and so did the kids. It was really nice to learn about new things that Case Middle School is doing for the district. Good, thank you.
Tina?
Again, thank you to Case. Thank you, Dr. Kimball, for coming. As he's leaving before we get to talk to him. Haven't seen you in a while. I went to two of the music productions that the kids had done last week. And I went to the talent show on Friday and I am blown away. These kids just amaze me on a daily basis. They did a great job in all of the areas, the talent show and then the musicals and the choir, and it's just great to watch them. They did a very nice job. So congratulations to our music department. Good job. Okay, please do. Matthew, thank you so much for everything you do for our kids and for our special ed department, and Tina and Lynn also. Thank you very, very much. And that's all I had to say, but I do have something to read. This time I won't forget. This says, good afternoon, Jason and Tina.
Thank you.
This month, from April 15th to the 11th, we proudly celebrated the Week of the Young Child, a vibrant and meaningful week dedicated to honoring young children, their families, and the educators who nurture their growth every day. Each day brought a special theme that highlighted the importance of early learning through play, exploration, instruction, creativity, and connection. A heartfelt thank you to all 8 of our community-based organizations for making this week truly magical for our littlest learners and their families in Watertown City School District. Your dedication and creativity helped bring joy and learning to life. Be sure to visit the bulletin board in the district office to see the beautiful work our pre-K students and staff created during this special week. It's a wonderful showcase of their efforts and enthusiasm. In addition to celebrating early childhood education, we also joined the district in recognizing Month of the Military Child this April. This is a time to honor the strength, resilience, and unique experiences of children in military families. We proudly stand with our military-connected students and families, acknowledging their sacrifices and contributions to our school community. This month, we say thank you and show our support because every military child deserves to be celebrated. Thank you, Elizabeth Mauer.
Lori Calvers.
Thank you. Is anybody from Case left? Thank you for hosting us. It was a great presentation, and thank you to the kids. I had Jack's certificate, so he was at practice and did not come, even though he had permission because he wanted to practice because they have a game tomorrow. But I wanted to thank Mike for bringing them. He came home very excited from the Cooperstown. Said the speakers were amazing. So thank you to the school for that opportunity. And I hope everyone has a great spring break.
Yeah.
So,
just to repeat myself, I know as we travel or tour schools at the board meetings, a common trend is that we're met with a list of more and more offerings that each school has to try to include and the different interests and pathways for each kid. And it's nice to see that. Also, I've noticed with a few kids who get up to speak, some of the students, they start by saying they have anxiety or they're not a great public speaker and they're not here to part.
Yeah.
So from now on, I'm going to start my speeches by saying,
Just want to echo the comments about Case. 7th and 8th grade, such an important time in students' lives. I know it was for me. It really sets the stage for what's going to happen in the high school. And thank you for all that you do to support our strategic plan. Did want to shout out Bree and Superintendent and all the administrative team and everyone involved in the budget process. What you see here is not just something that shows up on the desk. It's many, many months of work. Lots of input from the board, comes recommended by a board committee of which 3 of us serve. So by the time it gets here, it's really been pretty thoroughly discussed, and I really appreciate all the ways you bring multiple stakeholders into the discussion. And all the ways that it supports all the work everyone's trying to do to increase the impact of our strategic plan. So, thank you.
I couldn't say it better, so I'm not going to try.
Give it a try.
Now at this time, we're in need of an executive session for the purpose of negotiation pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law. Can I have a motion? Tina, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.